Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mandy. In today's video, we're going to talk about the knife radical. Now let's get the 田字格 ready and the pens ready. First of all, let's talk about the knife character. 刀 刀 is the knife character. And here is the evolution of this character, 刀. It evolved from the shape of the knife. Okay, so back to the knife characters. Let's turn it into the knife radical. As for the knife radical, there are three forms. The first one looks exactly like the knife character, and it usually at the bottom just look like this. This is the knife radical because it's usually at the bottom. So let's call it knife radical bottom. And the second type look a bit different from the knife character. And we simplify it into this. And let's say it's the standing knife. Okay, because we're giving them different names just to differentiate the three different forms. Okay, and the third one would be this. And it's a little bit tilted, you see? Tilt, tilt. So let's call it tilted knife. And usually it's at the top. So let's say it's tilted knife top. Okay, so we have three different forms. And in today's video, we're gonna spend a lot of time to talk about these two because they are related to the knife and the cutting, etc. As for the tilted knife, we're not going to talk a lot about it because the meaning of it is not really related to knife or cutting. It's named tilted knife top just because it looks like the knife character. That's it. As for the meaning, it's not really related to the knife. So I'm going to show you a lot of example with this radical and the standing knife radical. As for the tilted knife top, I'm going to show you some example of it, but I'm not going to explain a lot. Okay, so now let's get started. The first type, knife radical. Here's the example. The first one,分. Fen, it could mean separate or split. Here is the evolution of the character fen. As you can see from the very original form, it's like using a knife to cut things open so the things are separated into different parts. To use the fen into words, we can say 分开 分开 separate 开 is open, so just to separate it. And more example, we can say 分手 分 is to separate. 手, as we learned it in the hand radical videos, this is hand. So you separate the hand, so you don't hold hand anymore. So that would be to break up. If you say A break up with B, we can say A 和 B 分手. Because if they broke up already, so 分手了. Okay, moving on to the next character, which is also very easy. We just need a knife, 刀, and then put one dot on the left. That would be 刃. So here is the evolution of the character 刃. You can see here is the dot at the sharp side of the knife, right? So which means I'm talking about the sharp side, and that would be the blade. So 刃 would be the knife blade. If you want to talk about the knife blade very specifically, then you can say 刀刃. So 刀刃 knife blade. The next example is related to the knife blade. I will show you. So we have a knife blade here. And put a heart at the bottom. That would be 刃. So imagine if you put a knife blade on the heart, what would that be? That would be so hurtful, right? So painful, so hurtful. So your heart has to bear the pain or to be tolerant for the pain, right? So here's the word. You can say 忍 受 忍 is to bear, 受 is to receive. Bear the pain and you receive a lot of pressure from the outside. So 忍受 is to bear and tolerant. I will give you a sentence. 他不想在忍受他老板的坏皮 气 a comma, 所以他辞职了。Okay, it's a pretty long sentence. Let's take a look at that. So we have 他 is he. 不想 is want. 不想 don't want, doesn't want. 在 can be again and anymore. So 不想再 don't want anymore. So what? 忍受 tolerate. 他老板 So 他老板 it could mean 他的老板 but we have another the right here. So of course we can say 他的老板的 something, but just to make it shorter and easier, we just drop the first one and keep the second one. So 他老板 is his boss. The is 坏 is bad. 脾气 is temper. Yeah. 所以 so therefore 他 he 辞职 辞 is say goodbye and 职 is the position, the job position. So 辞职 say goodbye to the job position, it's resign the job. L is ed, already did, right? So altogether 他不想再忍受他老板的坏脾气。He doesn't want to tolerate his boss' bad temper anymore. 所以他辞职了。So he resigned. Moving on to the next example. 剪 it means to cut, and usually is the cut with scissors. Yeah. So how do we say scissors? We say 剪刀 剪刀 is the scissors. Okay, so we can use the scissors to cut the hair, right? So we say 剪头发 剪 is to cut, 头发 is the hair. So 剪头发, to cut the hair. Next example. 切 切, it also means to cut, but usually you cut it with your knife and you cut it neatly. Yeah. Why neatly? So I'll talk about a few other examples later and I will tell the difference between them. All you need to know right now is that 切, it uses knife to cut and it's neat. Okay. For example, we can say 切肉 to cut the meat. Just like when you are cooking, so you cut the meat, so it's 切肉. And then 切菜. 切 is to cut, 菜 is vegetable. So 切菜 to cut the vegetables. 切蛋 糕. Okay. 切 is to cut, 蛋糕 is the cake. So 切蛋糕 to cut the cake. Moving on to the next type of knife radical, the one that stand. So it's standing knife. Let's get to the example. The first one. 割 割 is also to cut. And we just mentioned about the 切 is to cut with the knife neatly, and the 割 is to cut also with a knife, but it's rough. Okay, so what do you mean to cut things roughly? And here's the example. We can say 割 草 割草 to cut. Remember, here we have the grass radical and the 草 is grass. 割草 to cut the grass. So comparing these two, 切 is to cut neatly, like when you cook, you really pay attention to the things that you are cutting, right? You cut the meat, you cut the vegetables, and when you cut the cake, you cut it carefully. And as for the 割, you don't need to pay that much attention, right? I'm not saying grass cutting is something random that you don't need to pay attention to it. No, I'm just saying comparing these two, the 切, you have to be neat and pay more attention to it. As for the 割, you don't have to pay that much attention and you just cut it rough. I hope it makes sense to you. And for example, you can also say 割绳 z. Okay, 割 is to cut. 绳子 it could be the rope or the string. Okay, so 割绳子 is to cut the rope, cut the string. Moving on to the next example. 划 划 is to also to cut, but no worry, there's different. It cut on the surface, so it's also to scratch. So it's on the surface. Okay, comparing to the 切割, they can cut really deep. And as for the 划, it's cutting on the surface. You can say 划 痕 划 is scratch. 痕, as you can see here, we have a thickness radical. Okay, so it has something to do with sickness or getting hurt. And the 痕, it means scars. So 划痕 is the scratch scars. For example, unfortunately, there is some scratch scarred on the car, right? So you can say 我的车有一些划痕 Okay, so 我的车 my car, easy. 有 have 一些 some 划痕 just some scratch scars. That's not pretty. Okay, and one interesting word I would like to talk about is 划 船 Okay, maybe some of you know that 船 is the boat. And 划, okay, 划 is to cut, to scratch on the surface. To scratch the boat? Well, no. The 划 in this case, the 划 could means to row the boat. So here is the river. And now you are rowing a little boat. Row the boat on the surface on the river, right? So, yeah. Okay, let's continue. So, we've talked about a lot of cutting, and let's think about it, what a knife can do. So, a knife can also be used to carve things, right? So, Let's talk about carving. Ke is to carve. To say to carve the character, we can say ke. Zi. Carve character. You know, in ancient China, people carved the characters on the stones, kind of look like this. This is a memorial stones. On the stone, it will talk about a lot of story about the person. For example, talk about who is this person, like why we are carving this stone. This stone is in memory of the person. And that's also a very important source for the calligraphy. And we have a lot of books for the Chinese calligraphy. They are the copy of the memorial stones from the ancient time. That's all for the carving. And the carving knife, we can say ke dao. So that would be the carving knife. Very good. And let's continue to the next one. Jian. Jian is the source. Here is the evolution of the character Jian. So Jian plays a very important role in the ancient time, not only in ancient China, but also in the whole ancient world. In ancient China, the long sword is one of the most important weapons to protect people. So let me introduce a very famous sword from the ancient China. This one, 越王勾践剑. It's one of the most famous ancient swords in China. The sword has been made 1,000 years ago, but it still remained intact, beautiful. And it is stored in the museum in Wuhan, Hubei province. If you are planning to go visit Wuhan, China, I would definitely recommend you to go visit the museum of Hubei province, where you can see this 越王勾践剑. Okay, let's continue. The next one is 刺. It could be the thorn on the plant. For example, let's say 玫瑰花刺. 玫瑰花 is the rose flower, and 刺 is the thorn. Yeah, 玫瑰花刺. So it's very easy to understand. So since the thorn would hurt you, and that kind of feeling, it's like stabbing, right? So the 刺 can also mean to stab. For example, we can say 刺伤. Yeah, 刺 is to stab. 伤 is hurt. So 刺伤 is the stab hurt. 刺伤 it could be a verb and a noun. Okay, I'll give you a sentence. 他被玫瑰花刺刺伤了 Okay, so let's see. 他 is he. 被 is the passive marker. 玫瑰花刺 we just have it. Rose flower thorn. 刺伤 is to stab hurt. Yeah. So literally it means he was stabbed by the rose flower thorn. Okay? So I want to point it out because this is a very classic example. We have two exactly same hanzi together. Sometimes you might think, oh, it's so funny. Why put them all together? But be careful when you read the whole sentence. Please cut the sentence and then understand the sentence. Like here we have 他 and then we have 被玫瑰花刺 and then 刺伤了. So you cut the sentence in half based on the meaning and then to understand it. Even though the 刺 is exactly the same character, same pronunciation, but they belong to different parts. They are not the same thing. Let's continue with the next example. 刷 and 刷 it could means brush. So, okay, that's easy. So how do we say brush the teeth? And that would be 刷牙 Okay, 刷 is to brush. 牙 is the teeth. Okay, this is the action. And funny thing is that if you switch it, 牙 刷 if you switch it, that would be the teeth brush, and that would make the toothbrush as the noun. And this one is the verb, the phrases to brush the teeth and toothbrush. And the next one, 刷 新 刷 is to brush. 新 is new. and brush it so you can get something new, and that is to refresh. Okay, especially to refresh the website, and that would be刷新网。Yeah. Okay. 刷新 is to refresh. 网 it's a net. So actually it's a very interesting word to talk about because it looks like a real net. See? The 网 and the net. It's evolved from the shape of the net. And yeah, it means page. So net page, the internet page, that would be the website page. All of the words that we just mentioned about with the knife radical, like 分、刃、忍, and with this form of knife radical, the standing knife, like 割、划, 刻、刺, etc. All of these are pretty physical, okay? So this is something you can see or actually do with the tools. And the following example, they are less physical and they are more abstract. Now let's continue with some more abstract example. The first one, 胜. This is a pretty complicated hanzi. For the 胜, it could mean left over or extra. The knife over here, it could represent to divide the quantity. Okay, so a large quantity divided into something necessary and something extra. So that's what the knife radical represent over here. Okay, let's get to some word with the 胜. 剩下. So 剩 is the left over and 下 is the down. So 剩下, it just means leftover or the extra part. Let me give it a sentence. 昨天我们做了大餐。今天 才剩下很多菜 ，OK？ 昨天 yesterday 我们 we 做了 is did or made okay made did 大餐 大 is big and 餐 is meal 大餐 big meal 今天 today 还 still 剩下 so left over 很多 a lot 菜 dish cuisine so all together 昨天我们做了大餐 yesterday we made a big meal 今天还剩下很多菜 today there's still a lot of dish left so today there's still a lot of leftover to say leftover we actually have word for it you can say剩饭 or you can say 剩菜 so either way 剩饭 or 剩菜 they are left over food moving on to the next character shan shan is to delete so let's talk a little bit about the shan character on the left side this one this is 册 and 册 it could be books in the ancient time the books like this made of bamboo and they're strapped together with the strings see the similarity right so 册 can mean book just like we mentioned before the knife radical can also represent to divide the quantity right so now we have the knife radical here to divide the quantity of the book so some of the books we're keeping and the others we are throwing them away and that would be delete so delete those information right and to say delete in modern Chinese we would say shan除 shan 除 the shan is to delete the 除 is to divide so together it just make to delete if you set the app in the Chinese language the delete button will be 删除 since we talk about the delete 删除 then what's the opposite of delete okay that would be to save to keep right so to save and keep that would be 保 存 保, as we mentioned long time ago, 保 it could be to protect. 存 could be survive. 保存 it just means save and keep. And 删除 保存 they are the opposite. Moving on to the next character. 刚 it could mean tough, hard, not easy to break. Here is the evolution of the character 刚. So you can see here's a net and here's a knife. So it means use the knife to cut the net to show that the knife is sharp. Okay, so 刚 it means tough and hard. But you need to be careful. In the 刚, there is only one cross in the middle. Okay, there's only one cross. Only one. That's 刚. As for the net, we just mentioned about, the net is 网. We have a bigger space and two cross in the middle. And then the 刚, meaning tough, we can say 刚 强 刚 is tough. 强 is strong. So 刚强 it means somebody's personality is tough and strong. So personality, let's put it together. 刚强的性格 Okay, 性格 is personality. Okay, 刚强的性格 strong and tough personality. And you know there's a character, very famous one, the King Kong. The Chinese name for King Kong is 金刚 Yeah, 金刚 is the Chinese name for the character King Kong. It sounds like King Kong, and also the 刚 explained the personality of King Kong because he's strong and tough. For the 刚, I just have to mention that tough and hard is just one of the meaning. And the second meaning, also very important, it means just now. Okay, how come it become just now? Well, there's a lot of evolution story going on, and I don't really know what's going on. In ancient Chinese, people borrow words, like they borrow this word to explain that word. They borrow this to that. So it's very complicated, and somehow the gang, this character, just borrowed to explain just now. No interesting story to talk about. Let's see. We can say 刚刚 gang, gang, it means just now. Or you can say 刚才 it's also just now. Okay? Let me give us some example. 他刚刚起床 OK 他 he 刚刚 just now 起床 get up wake up 他刚刚起床 he just get up actually it already happened so he just got up or he just woke up so you can see it's not always need the le to talk about the past because we already have the 刚刚 which means just now so we already know that you talk about the past so the le yeah it's not necessary you can have it and you can drop it let's continue the next one 到 means arrive which is a very practical word. For example, we can say 我到家了我到家了 I arrive home yeah so this is the very first meaning of 到 means arrive and the second meaning of it is to here's the classic structure we can say 从 A到 B which means from A to B. It could refers to the time and the place. For example, let's talk about the time. We can say 从7点到10点 So 从7点到10点 from 7 o'clock to 10点 10 o'clock. Okay? And let's talk about the places. We can say 从我家到办公室 Hey, 从 is from. 我家 my home. 到 to 办公室 office. Okay? Very practical word. And let's talk about the next one. 里 on the left side of the 里. This one. This is the 和. 和 means grind. So here are some very similar parts. This is the 木 for tree and wood. 和 just have one more stroke on the top, and 木 there's no stroke on the top. And we have 2 dots on the top. That would be 米. 米 means rice. Okay? These 3, they look similar, and they are all kind of related to the plants. One is grind, the other one is tree, and the other one is rice. Now we have the grind on the left and knife on the right. So, which means you use your knife to cut the grind. Your knife should be sharp. So, 利 means sharp as an adjective. And usually we say 锋利. Feng Li. It means sharp. And usually a lot of sharp things, for example, the knife, is made of metal. So that's why we have a metal radical here. For the 锋利, we can say 锋利的剪刀. So 锋利 would be sharp. The as an adjective marker. 剪刀 would be scissors. Now, since the 利 means sharp, so a sharp knife must be pretty convenient to use, so it's good, right? So 利 can also be benefit. For example, we can say 有利. For the 有 is have, 利 is benefit. So have benefit for something. It could be beneficial. Yeah, and usually we say 有利于 something. Okay, I'll give you a sentence. 运动有利于身体 健康 Okay, let's see. 运动 as sports. 有利于 is beneficial or good for. 身体 is body. 健康 is health. So, 运动有利于身体健康. Sports is beneficial or good for the body health. Here are more examples for the 力. We can say 力用 力 is benefit. 用 is to use. So you use it for your own benefit. That would be you take advantage of something. I'll give you a sentence. 他利用了他的朋友 Okay, 他 is he. 利用了 took advantage of 他的 his 朋友 friends. Pretty simple. So 他利用了他的朋友 he took advantage of his friend. For the 利用, it could be take advantage of something in the negative way, and also it could be take advantage of something like you use it as your advantage in the positive way. Here's one last word for the 力, and which is also very commonly used in Chinese. 顺利 The 顺 could be smooth, and the 利 it means beneficial and it's just good. Okay, so 顺利 together, it just means smooth and good. For example, here is a sentence that you can send your wishes to other people. You can say, 祝你一切顺利 Okay, so for the 祝 we can see on the left side of it, here is a God-related radical. So it has something to do with God or wishes. So for the 祝, it's wish. And the 你 is simple, is you. And then 一切. We just mentioned about the 切 a few minutes ago. When the 切 pronounced as 切, it could mean cut. But now it pronounced differently. It's with the fourth tone, 切. So in this case, the 一切, it means everything. And then 顺利 is smooth and good. So 祝你一切顺利, it means wish you everything goes well. Moving on to the next example with knife radical. 판. 판 is to judge or to sentence. Okay, so on the left side of the 판, it kind of looks familiar. It's the 半. See, for the 半 characters, it goes straight up from top to bottom. And as for the left part, it tilted a little bit. It becomes the left falling stroke. Okay, so here is the evolution of the character 判. And you can see the original meaning of it is to use the knife to cut things in halves. So since you're cutting things into halves, so kind of like the logic of judging things. Okay, so when you judge things, you categorize them into good things and bad things. And since you judge something, you sentence the crime for it. Okay, so let's get to some word. We can say 判 断. The 判 is to judge. The 断 is to break or broken. So you judge it and things break down. Well, yeah. The 判断, it means to judge as a verb, or it could be judgment as the noun. And I will give you a sentence, for example. 他的判断总是错的. Okay, pretty short sentence. We can have 他的 his 判断. Now the 判断 is a noun, judgment. And 总是 always. 错 is wrong, like 错的 wrong. Okay, so together 他的判断总是错的. His judgment always wrong, or he has a bad judgment. So since we're speaking about judging and sentence, let's talk about something more serious. It's crime. And here is the evolution of these characters, 行. You can see on the left side, actually this is a whale. So 刑 could mean crime and penalty. So the law for the crime, for the penalty, that would be 刑法. That is the crime law. The 法 is from the 法律, right? 法. "法律" is the word for law. So we take a 法 right here. 刑法 is the criminal law. Here's one more example that's really serious about judgment, sentence, and punishment. Okay, let's talk about punishment. "法." And you might notice on the left bottom side, here we have a speak radical. Here is the evolution for the characters 法. You can see on the top part, it represents the net, and a net is a law because laws can wrap you to restrict you, so you have to live under the net. And on the left bottom side, it's the speak radical. It represents when you sentence it, you speak it out. At the right bottom side, it's the knife radical, which represents people use tool to punish people. So that's the rough story of the 法. And here is the example for the 法. "罚 款. 罚 it means to punish. 款 it could be money. So punish, money, that would make the fine, the penalty fine. And as for punish as a verb, we can say 惩罚. This is the punish as a verb or as a noun. So it could be punishment. Okay, let me give you a sentence. 因为逃学他被他的妈妈惩罚以 Good. Yue. Bu. Neng. One. You. Xi. Okay, that's a pretty long sentence. Let's take a good look at it. 因为 is because. Tao, as we can see, we have a foot radical, walking radical right here. So it has something to do with walking, running, just anything with the foot action. And Tao, it could be to escape or to skip. 学 is to study. So 逃学 together, it could mean to skip the class, skip school. Then 他 is he. 被 is the passive marker. 他的 his. 妈妈 is his mother. 惩罚 here's the key words punish. 一个月 1 month. 不能 can not able to not able to 玩游戏 play games. 玩游戏 it could refers to play any games. It could be video games like the game on the phone or game without the electronics. But because we're living in the modern days, so in many cases the 玩游戏 refers to play the video game. But actually the word 玩游戏 it could refers to played any games. Okay, so the whole sentence 因为逃学 because skipping the school, skipping the class. 他被他的妈妈惩罚 he was punished by his mom. And here is the punishment. 一个月不能玩游戏 For 1 month, he cannot play games. A very important trick to read a long sentence is that you know how to cut the sentence, where to stop. Like the second one, actually it's pretty long, but you know from here to here, actually you can stop. And from here to here. Then you might wonder, how do I know where to stop? Well, that's a good question. I think the most important thing is that you know every word, you know the meaning for the word. So basically you read the whole sentence first and then try to understand the word in the sentence. And then after you know some basic information of the sentence, and then you will just naturally know where to stop. It takes a lot of practice. It just takes a lot of time to learn it, and you can do it step by step. Now let's continue with the very last form of the knife radical. It's the tilted one on the top. So let's call it tilted knife top. Okay, as we mentioned before, the tilted knife top is not really related to knife or cutting things. It was named tilted knife top is just because it looks like the knife character, and that's it. As for the characters with the tilted knife top, they have nothing to do with cutting or knife. But I'm gonna still show you some examples so you know what I'm talking about. The first one, here is mian. So here is the evolution for the characters mian, and the original meaning of it is to take off the hat from the head. So since it means to take away, and now let's make it a little bit more abstract. It could be free. Okay, for example, 免费. As you can see at the bottom of the fei, we have a shell radical, and the shell radical is related to money because in the ancient time people used shell as money. So 免 is to take away, and the fei is the fee. To take away the fee, so that means it's free. Not the free for the freedom, it means the free for the money, like you don't need to pay. And here is another example. 免税. 免 it means to take away, and 税 is tax. So take away the tax, that would be just tax-free or duty-free. One interesting word which is very, very similar to the word 免. Here we have the 免. You just need to add one more dot here, and it becomes a completely different characters, which is 兔, and completely different meaning, which is rabbit. Yeah. And to say rabbit, usually we say 兔子. Okay, so you might wonder why by adding one dot and then you turn the 免 into 兔. Well, here is the evolution for the characters 兔. So obviously it's evolved from the picture of a rabbit. So for the 免 and the 兔, they have two completely different swords. They're evolved from different things, but somehow, after thousands of years of evolution, now they look very similar, but actually they evolved from different things. And the next example I would like to show you, also very, very commonly used. 鱼. Okay, 鱼 is the fish. And here is the evolution for the characters 鱼, and also it's evolved from the picture of a fish. Speaking of fish, fish is popular, and let's talk about some fish that we often see. 三文鱼. So 三文鱼 actually is a borrowed word from foreign language, and you can see 三文, it sounds very close to salmon. Yeah, that is 三文鱼. And another one, 吞拿鱼. I think this is a very easy guess. 吞拿 sounds very much like tuna, fish. Actually, there is some other example come with the tilted knife top, but as I mentioned, several times in this video, actually it's not really related to the knife or the cutting meaning. So when you see one, as long as you can recognize there is a tilted knife top, and that would be just fine. But the characters, they have nothing to do with cutting or knife. That's it for today's video. Actually, the knife radical is not as violent as it seems like, right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this video, don't forget to like the video. And if you want the practice sheet, you can download it from my website. I'll drop the link down below in the description box. And I'm Mandy. I'll see you in the next video.